Act 1, Hook. Don't touch that. Lena warned, pulling her hand back from the narrow hallway table. She was just steadying herself, nothing dramatic, but the woman descending the stairs looked like winter personified. "What are you doing up here?" Dr. Weller snapped, voice low precise. "Mr. Hale asked me to." "I don't care who asked you," she said, stepping closer, too close. "This wing has professionals. You're here to clean, not to interfere. Stay in the kitchen, use the service stairs. Understood?" Lena's fingers tightened on the handle of her cart, and that wound up being the opening line of the story nobody thought would end the way it did. For months, Lena had been the invisible background noise of a place that spent millions on getting better. A private estate, a team of glossy specialists, fancier titles than you can shake a diploma at. They called young Owen unreachable, and they wrote it down like a verdict. But Lena had watched hands for 12 years, not because she had a degree, but because she had a daughter who taught her to listen when the world didn't bother. That day, a 7-year-old boy sitting on the floor made a gesture that looked meaningless to everyone with a degree and a tidy office, and it hit Lena like a bell. Throat flow point, she thought. She copied it, awkward and small, and in the space between a bottle of water and a child's stare, everything changed. Act 2, the grind, the breakthrough, the fight. You need to know where Lena came from to understand why she kept going. Her name used to be Dr. Lena Carter once, at least in her head. Graduate student research assistant, she was on track until the day a phone call rearranged her life. Her husband collapsed, was gone in hours, and bills arrived faster than condolences. She left school not because she wanted to, but because a little girl needed dinner and diapers and a mom who could be there. Lena learned American Sign Language from library books, late-night online tutorials, and whoever would teach her for free. She learned to translate silence for a living. No letters on a wall, no framed credentials. Just practice stubbornness and an instinct to look where others weren't. Back at the Hale estate, Lena watched. Owen tapped his throat, made a flowing hand motion like a little current, then tapped the air and pointed. Throat flow point. His water sat a foot away. Lena got up from the corner, knelt, and mirrored him, slow, careful. Reached, offered the bottle. Owen froze, eyes lifting like someone finding a lighthouse. He took the water, drank, then flattened his palm against his chest and spread his fingers like a flower opening. The same sign Lena had taught her daughter years before. "Thank you," she whispered, because that's what it was. From the doorway, Thomas Hale. The man who paid for every consultant and every expensive gadget in that house watched with his mouth open. He crossed the room and sounded like a man stripped bare of corporate polish. "What did you just do?" Sitting in Thomas Hale's leather office, Lena told him a story she hadn't planned to retell Elena, her little girl who was born deaf. Nights with flashlights and borrowed textbooks, learning to be a mother and a translator. The eviction notice that turned her PhD plans into memory. She explained home sign, the makeshift languages kids invent when no one gives them a real one, and why it mattered. Thomas listened like a man who thinks money buys answers until he realized money hadn't bought this. "Can you teach his language?" he asked, almost hopeful. "If he'll let me," Lena said. When results started to show, small things at first, a choice of cereal, a calmer reaction to Schott's eye contact that wasn't just reflex. The professionals called it coincidence or a fluke day. Dr. Weller called Lena well-meaning, but untrained, like those words could stop a child from learning. The estate convened a meeting that smelled of polished wood and professional certainty. Thorny arguments followed liability standards, protocols, accreditation. "You can't replace a therapy team with a housekeeper," they said. Lena listened, chest tight, and then she spoke. "You're evaluating his brain through your language," she told the panel, "not through his." She explained how validating a child's own system creates trust, how bilingualism helps, how forcing a single, correct method can shut a child down. She cited the habits she'd documented, not from a lab, but from hours in a room watching hands. And she did something they hadn't expected. She pushed a page of her notes across the table. Numbers, gestures, consistency. Silence followed the kind that has teeth. Thomas did something rarer than anyone should expect. He backed her up. "I respect credentials," he said, "but results matter." He authorized Lena to keep working with Owen, gave her access to his notes, and slid a leather journal across the desk, his late wife's observations, like an offering. Dr. Weller left with a clipped warning. "When this fails, don't say we weren't clear." Lena smiled with her jaw clenched and went back to the playroom. And then the breakthroughs multiplied. In 3 weeks, Owen's gesture vocabulary exploded. He learned standardized ASL signs as a second language while keeping his home system. He became bilingual in the truest sense, switching between systems like any kid switches between sneakers and sandals. He argued for the swing at the park in his own way. 5 fingers equals 5 pushes, and the other kid got it. He asked for a blue shirt for honey cereal for the aquarium for his birthday, not in words but in the bright, stubborn way children make needs into requests. A professional evaluation was scheduled. The district wanted to mainstream him, but they demanded standardized ASL and certified aids. Suddenly, all that progress made the stakes higher. Success meant the system would have to change or else swallow him whole. The evaluation day felt like a trial. Panelists in neat jackets asked questions in languages Owen didn't own. He shut down, retreated into rocking. The exact behavior the record cited as evidence he was severely impaired. Lena rose and said, "Let me translate." She sat on the floor, made the gestures Owen used, asked for permission, taught a simple safety sequence, explained colors the way he understood colors. Owen, who couldn't answer, repeated spoken prompts, identified every color, mimed an aquarium story, finished with a gesture that landed like a punch. He placed his hand on his heart and pointed at his father. The room, the experts, the skeptics, held their breath. Thomas looked like a man who'd been given back what money couldn't buy. Dr. Weller called Lena reckless. Others called it pedagogically unsound. But Dr. Thompson, the district psychologist, shifted in his chair and said the thing no one expected. Give him a trial. 1 semester in mainstream with a trained aide and monthly evaluations. They'd test the system. Lena built, not tear it down. When the panel asked if she'd consult for other kids, Lena's throat closed. Yes, she said, because for the first time being right also meant responsibility. Act 3. Victory, cost, and the open question. The victory was not overnight. There were nights Lena worked 2 jobs and mornings she woke up with her head buzzing from classes she'd started to take again. There were small humiliations that never quite vanished, reminders of how people size you up by a uniform. But the data stacked up. Communication attempts went up. Meltdowns dropped, social moments multiplied. The boy who'd been written off found a voice and then a second voice, and the world had to readjust its list of acceptable expertise. Lena was invited to speak at a university. The woman who'd been told to use the back stairs stood on a stage and said, "I forgot to stay in my place," and people laughed and cried and then listened. A research center formed. Scholarships were offered for adults who'd put their educations on hold, and a pilot program spread to districts that had once said no. Owen turned 9 and taught classmates a few of his home signs. The kid who'd been unreachable taught other kids to listen. It wasn't clean or pretty. Lena missed birthdays, paid for textbooks with overtime, watched her daughter take on adult chores too early. She paid a cost that never shows in the headlines. Dr. Weller eventually apologized, small mercy, saying she'd been defending a system more than the children it was meant to help. They shook hands, not as equals, but as people who'd learned something. Credentials hadn't died, they'd just learned humility. Here's what I want you to do after you hear this, because stories aren't trophies, they're provocations. First, spot the invisible people, the person in the background who actually knows what's broken. Say their name, ask them what they see. Second, value outcomes, not just paper. Certificates matter, but results matter more. When someone produces, find a way to make room, don't make excuses. Third, tell a story. If you know Lena, use your voice. One person with a platform can flip a life. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think Lena should have been allowed to lead? Was it reckless or brave? Who's the Lena in your life? The receptionist, the janitor, the assistant. Doing the quiet work nobody notices. Drop a comment, argue with me, tell your story. If you were in Thomas Hale's shoes, what would you have done? Share, subscribe, and most of all, notice. Because the difference between ignoring someone and changing a life might be as small as choosing to listen.